Shit, did I click it? Yeah, I did click it. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive, Wednesday, December 17th. And it feels like we have the same theme lately, but 2 games today. Tomorrow will be quite different, but 2 games today, Cleveland and Chicago, Memphis and Minnesota. And we've gotten all the news, which is not surprising because both games start at 8 o'clock. So we were going to get it all one way or the other. No Anthony Edwards today. No Ja Morant today. No Ayo Dosunmu today. Have we gotten, I haven't paid attention all that much for this one. Have we gotten any news on Brandon Clark yet?
Nothing on Brandon Clark yet, no.
And nothing on Brandon Clark yet. So buckle up. We're going to be here for the next hour and a half, 45 minutes for the deeper dive, 45 minutes for Live Before Lock. I am Josh Engelman. That is DK. Follow us both at Josh Engelman and DK__DFS and hit the like button if you haven't done it yet. I kind of like this slate, but it is gross now.
Yeah, it's gross. I feel like a lot of people are going to be on similar builds now with the injury news. But still, I think there's a couple angles to talk about here. And I think this is the last small slate we're going to have for a while. So it's nice to get back to the bigger slates come tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow will be a big one. I'm not looking forward to the prep work that it will take to get ready for the morning tomorrow, but once it gets done, it'll feel good. But it's going to be a lot. Today, here, I'll set the table right now. About 50% ownership for Darius Garland, about 50% ownership for Vince Williams, just shy of 50 for Bones Highland. Those are your 3 highest owned names today. Donovan Mitchell, Julius Randle, both in the 9Ks, both 40% owned. Santi Aldama at 6,400, 40% owned. And then it starts to taper off a little bit more into the 30s from there. We have more than enough time to hit on each one of these teams individually. So let's walk through it in that way. We'll start on the Cleveland side, a team that I like quite a bit today, a team that I bet an alt over for, a team that I bet Donovan Mitchell to score 40 plus today. And yet the best play, I think, from the Cleveland Cavaliers is Darius Garland. So let's just start with him. 6,800 in a matchup against the Bulls. No Evan Mobley and all of the assorted guard/wing dudes that have been out for ages. How are you feeling about Garland? Because every time that I roster him, he has one of those days where he goes 0 for 11 from 3.
Yeah, I think he stands out as one of the better point per dollar plays on the slate. The only concern I have is there was some comments about his toe after the game, struggling with that a little bit, but he's not in the injury report, so I'm not going to read into that too much. Played 39 minutes. That was including overtime, so about 34 minutes in regulation. Had about a 30% usage rate last game without Evan Mobley. Obviously, it's their primary ball handler as well, so he's projected to be one of the highest owned plays of the slate, but I think it makes sense. He is underpriced right now for his role. And then plus you have a fantastic matchup here against Chicago.
I'm having a real tough time getting away from Darius Garland here. I love the matchup against the Bulls. I like it even more now than I did 20 minutes ago, now that Ayo Dosunmu's out, because at least he plays defense. It's less defense for anybody that's going to be guarding Darius Garland. That's always a good sign. I am permanently nervous about his health. He's live to leave every game at this point with this toe bullshit, but he's too cheap for what this slate is. This is not going to be one of the spots that I'm dodging ownership, nor is his backcourt partner in $9,800 Donovan Mitchell. We got a lot of salary now. It's pretty easy to pay up, and he's 44% owned. I am above that number, just like I'm above Darius Garland. I want all things these 2 guards. I think they're just going to succeed very, very easily against the Bulls. How do you feel about Mitchell?
Yeah, I think Mitchell looks like a great spend up on this slate. Similar to Garland, in my opinion, one of the better point per dollar plays. Going back to last year with Evan Mobley off the court, he's got a 36% usage rate. He is 1.44 fantasy points per minute without Mobley. And so, going to take on a bigger role offensively, obviously. And again, great matchup. So the 2 guards are getting a lot of ownership, but they're getting ownership for a reason. They're both really good plays on this slate.
And the thing that I've been paying closest attention to is these guys for like the past 18 months have just not been playing all that much. Their minutes have been up as of late. And I think the shorthanded nature of it all, the fact that they haven't been off to the best start as a team, is letting them lean on these guys a little bit more, but probably part of the reason that Darius Garland's 6,800. So I'm willing to take these dudes. I'm going to pray that it is mildly competitive, but just highly scoring. We also have Jared Allen at 35% owned. He is like the final of the top tier of Cleveland dudes before it gets a little blurry. I don't know what to do with Jared Allen at this point. That guy's a mystery. Like you would expect in these scenarios that he's just going to play 30 minutes moving forward because like you would think one of their 5 best players just in general. I don't know how confident I am with that.
Yeah, he's a tricky one. That they said Atkinson said that he wasn't on a limit last game, but he didn't close. They closed with Dean Wade at the 5. If he would have closed that game, he would have paid. He was like pacing for like 28 minutes or so. So I think we're probably expecting around that for Jared Allen. Yeah. The good thing is with Evan Mobley off the court, the rebounding numbers obviously increase. So going back to last year, he is averaging 17.5 rebounds per 100 possessions without Evan Mobley. And he is a 1.24 fantasy point per minute player. Again, that's going back to last year with Mobley off the court. So if we get about 28 minutes for Jared Allen, then he's going to stand out as a pretty good point per hour play here. It is, a good matchup too. I love targeting bigs against the Bulls front court, but is it a guarantee that he closes? I don't think it's a guarantee that he closes. I think that they could go small ball. So Atkinson said that he really liked the look with Dean Wade at the 5. And they said that they'll experiment with that more. And obviously that is a little bit concerning to hear for a guy like Jared Allen. So he's getting a good amount of ownership right now, projecting for about 35%. But yeah, of like the top 3 guys, I think he is the one with the most downside right now because I don't think it's a guarantee that he's going to close this game.
I agree. I have too much of him. So I'm very nervous about this scenario. I think that ultimately they're going to just rely on him a little bit more in this stretch, whether that's right now or in the next week or 2. I think that's just going to force their hand a bit. I hope, based on my current exposures. But like just as I start scanning down the line, it's like, look, you can play small for 20 minutes a game, every game very easily if you want to, and still get Jared Allen real minutes. So I'm going to hope that is the case. I think the real mystery is hatching out the rest of this Cleveland team. Jalen Tyson is 6,200, but he's got shooting guard, small forward eligibility. DeAndre Hunter is 5,800, just small forward. Lonzo is here coming off of some big minutes. Dean Wade at 4,100, not the best per minute dude in the world. Random shots at like Naquan Tomlin or Thomas Bryant. Is there anything in the rest of Cleveland that you're interested in?
Well, first, I guess I have a pretty hot take on who I think starts for Cleveland because I don't think it's going to be who we think it is. So I think the most logical would be either start Tyson or Dean Wade. But
you're about to imply that it's not either one of those guys, aren't you?
I don't think so. No, and I don't think it's Naquan Tomlin either. So Lonzo didn't have a starter's jersey on at shoot around. Neither did Tyson, Wade, or Tomlin. So I'm like, okay, who even could this be then? And I think there's only one realistic option, Tyrese Proctor.
And I thought it was going to be Craig Porter Jr. and I didn't understand it.
Yeah, so I think there's a decent chance they start Proctor here. Proctor was actually ahead of CPJ last game. And again, like, would I do that? No. I would probably start Tyson in this scenario, just as like a defender on Giddey. But if you base it just off the starter jerseys at shoot around, then I think it would be Proctor. But yeah, if I'm the coach, I'm starting Tyson.
I'm fine with either Tyson or Wade in that spot, but it's got to be one of those two to me. Or realistically, like I'd be fine if it were Lonzo. I just don't know what that like serves.
And it's that
makes them jerseys, so small.
I know. Yeah, and it's not 100% obviously, but I'm just basing it off that. So that's why I think there's a chance that Cleveland might do something weird and start Proctor.
At which point, Tyrese Proctor is 3,500 point guard eligible and will be a reasonable enough value. Like he's not going to get projected for 1 billion minutes. We have guys like Bones Highland today as like relative value plays that really take a bite out of that. But he will become certainly way more interesting if that lands. That one's something. Ooh.
I mean, I was just going through my head. I'm like, process of elimination. I'm like, who else could this be? And yeah, I leaned that it was him over CPJ just because he was ahead of CPJ last game, and they like never start CPJ. Like Alonzo always starts over CPJ. So, but yeah.
Okay. I don't really have anything else here to land on the Cleveland side. Like the guys that I have are the quote unquote big three for these dudes, and I've got scattered amounts of the rest of them.
Yeah. So for me, for Cleveland, I think as far as talking about like some of those other pieces, I know like no one else is really getting a ton of ownership right now. I think Dean Wade is kind of interesting at 4,100, especially if they go more, even if he doesn't start, like especially if they play him more at the 5. Like he's not a great point per minute player, but obviously becomes a bit more productive if he is going to play the 5 there. And so I think he's an interesting contrarian value. I also think if they try to play a little bit more small ball, that could help a guy like Lonzo's minutes. He's only 4,600, getting about 15% ownership. So I think those two are interesting contrarian plays. I don't know what to do with DeAndre Hunter. He has not looked like himself at all. I know the ownership's not really there either. But man, like even at 5,800, I'm like struggling to get to Hunter. Do you have any takes on him, I guess?
No, I'm under the field here. I don't. Something's up, and I'm very happy to not have him. It's weird. Like I thought he was a great piece here, and I don't know. Maybe he's just overextended, and they just got to get him back to a typical role when these guys start getting in here. But just doesn't seem right now.
Yep.
Just to hit the FanDuel side very quickly, 75% ownership coming into Donovan Mitchell right now. It's 55%. For Darius Garland, he's a couple $100 more expensive. Power forward center eligible, Jared Allen is 40% owned, quite a different play there. And then you get into that same morass of Tyson and Hunter. Wade probably a little underrepresented in comparison to those guys. Then we get to this stupid Bulls team. 35% ownership to Josh Giddey, 9,200. 35% ownership to Kobe White, 6,800. Same price as Darius Garland if you're looking for a comparison point. Vooch, 20% owned. Buzelis, 15. Falls off the table after that. Let's split them here between Giddey and White since they're both the same ownership. Do you have a preference between the two? Because I have one significantly more than the other.
I mean, I think it's easier to get to Kobe White on this slate. The minutes have been slowly increasing. 30, 28 last game. I think you could see like low 30s for White. Do I have a strong preference between these two right now at similar ownership? Not really. I think they're pretty similar plays. So I don't have a super hot take, I guess. Which one is the one that you're getting to?
I have a ton of Kitty. It's
okay.
Yeah. So like I have 1 billion% of Giddey, of Donovan Mitchell, of Darius Garland. I'm looking at this game right now and thinking like, well, this is the one I need. It's because I'm just all over this one. We'll see what that ends up looking like by the time we get to lock. But I just have a ton of Josh Giddey right now. Reasonably could play 35, 36 minutes in a competitive matchup. And this could certainly be a competitive matchup. There's no reason it can't be. I am a bit light. Well, I'm right at the field right now with Kobe White, but quite a bit lighter than I am for the Josh Giddey piece. I'm just not finding it all that difficult to get all the way up to the top tier of the pay structure. And I'm overloading myself in sort of like a stars and scrubs type build. Do I like it? No, it's Josh Giddey. I mean, I never like having him, but I mean, certainly fills up the stat sheet. Best I could do.
And with Ayo out too, you would think that probably plays a couple extra minutes.
Certainly could now. I have one question for you. He is currently 14% owned. Any thoughts on the $3,200 Isaac Okoro? Because he is someone that's in too many of my lineups, but there's some reasoning behind it.
Yeah, indifferent on Okoro. I think they're probably going to need him here as one of their primary on-ball defenders. Played 23 and a half minutes last game. He recently returned from injury, but now he's 2 games back. So I think that like those minutes could tick up a little bit. Obviously, he's not a great point per minute player, but right now, as you mentioned, not getting a ton of ownership. And I think there's upside for him to play like high 20s minutes in a spot like this. So I think he's totally fine. Again, he's not like super exciting to get to, but there's definitely a chance he plays a little bit more than what he's projected for.
Revenge narrative alert here. He knows these guys. He knows the tricks of the trade for these dudes. But the real reason, and I'm going to highlight it on the screen right now. At small forward today, the most expensive small forward on the slate is $6,500 Jaden McDaniels. Like, we don't have anybody real at small forward today. I like Jaden McDaniels, don't get me wrong, but like there's no 8, 9, 10K dudes here. It's just a complete position of mostly junk. And if that's the case, I'm going to go to this guy at the bottom that's starting and, not a great per minute dude, but in this game environment that I think is going to be a relatively high scoring game environment, I could just grab this as a punt and not worry about whether or not I'm getting McDaniels or Jalen Tyson or Hunter or Jalen Wells or getting Herder right or KCP. Like, I don't have any confidence in most of these names today. So I'm apparently putting my confidence in Isaac Okoro, which is probably the first time that sentence has ever been said. Oh, that is haunting. How do you want to manage this faux center? Well, not Cleveland. How do you want to manage this faux center rotation right now between whatever Vooch is now, Jalen Smith, who is essentially a power forward, Zach Collins, and I guess to a degree, like some pieces of Buzelis or Patrick Williams or whoever they are when they're not getting one of those bigs, if they have one of those bigs not on. I don't know what to do with these Chicago guys. There's too many of them. Yeah,
so the Chicago front court is interesting here. Obviously, again, we have Vooch, Zach Collins, and Jalen Smith all healthy. You did see 30 minutes of Vooch last game, though, which is good to see. The price point has come down on him. Ownership around 20%. You're probably expecting high 20s minutes from Vooch. So I think he's a reasonable contrarian play. I do, and this one's scary, I do kind of like Zach Collins at no ownership right now. Last game, he kind of got his minutes slashed, only played 11 minutes. They played some Jalen Smith. Smith played a little bit alongside of him. But the game before that, Zach Collins did play 19 minutes. And so, like, he did close over Vooch. There's also a chance that, like, Chicago just, like, they don't need to play Jalen Smith, right? And Zach Collins is a pretty good point per minute player. And so, like, if you get around 20 minutes from Zach Collins, he could definitely put up a score that you need on this slate. So I don't have a ton of confidence in the rotation right now, especially with Jalen Smith healthy. But if things go right and you do get around 20 minutes from Zach Collins at no ownership, then I think that is a little bit interesting on a 2-game slate.
I certainly like the angle for it, given the fact that he's 3% owned on this particular slate. Like, there's a lot of paths for him to grab extra minutes or even just get like reasonable backup center minutes today, which is really all that it takes on a day like today. Yeah, he does. He seems like a guy that, we have him in for 14 minutes right now. If he played 19 today, that would not be surprising in any way. And that could be more than enough for what we have on this slate. I like the Zach Collins piece there. I'll take a look at him when I start my build after this show. We hop over to the Chicago side on FanDuel, 55% ownership to Josh Giddey, just 35 for Kobe White. So a much bigger gap on the FanDuel side than there is on the DraftKings side. 20% each to Buzelis and Vooch, and then again, it falls off a cliff. The value here on the FanDuel end for Chicago is a little bit different than it is on the DraftKings side. First game down, I have likely way too much of it. I talked about it today, actually, on Tails. It's an app you guys should download using the link in the description of this video. Sports betting, pick'em, DFS, honestly, whatever you want in that sports realm, you can put it up there on Tails and you can see it as well. 200 plus people for you to find who you're looking for and growing on a day-by-day basis. Guys like DK, myself, guys like you that you know from the Stochastic channel, Lofty, Greg, Ben, Eric. We're all here posting content. I posted my contenders there earlier today, posted the update after Ja Morant was out. You guys can get all of that for free, no cost whatsoever. Anything that hits the free feed is there for you. If you want to subscribe to someone like DK perhaps, I would recommend it. You can do that as well. If you're following people on there and they've got a paid package, they've been making you some money, maybe you want to go a little bit further. You can do all of that on Tails. If you download the app, and you should, leave a rating and a review if you can. We're trying to get to 1,000 by Christmas. I've been talking about it for the last week now. We've got a week to go. We're closing in on it, but we can only do it if you guys help us out. Game number 2. This looks a little bit different than it did the moment I woke up this morning, at a time when Ja Morant might have been playing in this game, at a time when Anthony Edwards might have been playing in this game. However, neither one of those guys are playing. Barely anybody is playing for the Memphis Grizzlies today. They have right now 10 bodies. They might have 9, depending on Brandon Clark's status. I would say, and I said this earlier today, I don't expect him to play a ton in his return. He hasn't been playing much. He hasn't been in yet this season. I also thought that at the end of last year, I believe, when he came back late, and then he was just playing 30 minutes a night. Right out of the gate, and it was really weird. So that would suck, but he's 3K, 10% owned, I might add. This team is very short-handed, and now we have a bunch of ownership coming in. 50% to Vince Williams, 40 for Aldama, 30 for Coward, 20 more for Wells, Jackson, KCP. We're still getting love for Landale, Brandon Clark. What stands out most to you from the Memphis Grizzlies today? It seems pretty obvious to me that it's Vince Williams, but there are certainly other ways that we can go.
Yeah, I think we have to start with Vince Williams, right? Because not only is Ja Morant out, but Cam Spencer is out. And when Ja was out previously, Cam Spencer was starting to eat into the role of Vince Williams. And now he's out too. So Vince Williams should start here. The minutes should be very secure. With Ja Morant and Cam Spencer off the court this year, he's got a 34% assist percentage. So he's going to be their primary ball handler, and he does have guard forward eligibility. So he's getting a ton of ownership right now. But I agree. I think he is your best point per hour play on Memphis and the easiest guy to get to. Because really there's not a lot of competition for minutes here. My Mashak is the backup, I guess. I think Vince Williams probably playing close to 30 minutes, but honestly, it could be a little bit more, especially if Brandon Clark gets filled out and this team only has 9 bodies. They might just have to play some of these starters minutes into the 30s.
I hope that's the case. So I'm looking at my exposures right now for Memphis. Not surprised to see Vince Williams in most of what I'm doing. But where do you want to go for the rest of these guys? You've got a mid-tier price tag on Aldama. You've got a mid-tier price tag on Coward. Jalen Wells is 5,200. He tends to take quite a bit more shots when some of these guys are off the floor. Triple J is just sitting here not doing shit all year, no matter who's around. No Edie now, no Morant. What is he? $7,700 Triple J. I should be more interested. I'm not. Where do you want to go for Memphis? Or do you want to just go all the way to the bottom and roll the dice on a Brandon Clark?
Yeah, well, we did finally see a ceiling game from Jaren Jackson. I think one of the first this year, going for 57 fancy points. Yeah. And so his price point is up though to 7,700. So I do think it's a bit tougher to get to him on the slate. Not that he's completely out of play. He's 20% owned. He's still playable, but I think next in line for me probably would be Coward and Aldama. They're next in ownership as well. Around 40% to Aldama, around 30% to Coward. So Coward role a lot more secure. Going to have a bit more of a playmaking role too without Ja Morant on the court, and obviously more usage as well. Aldama has started the last couple of games. I thought there's an outside chance that maybe they would start Landale here. But he did have a starter's jersey on a shoot around, so I'm pretty sure that he's going to start. 2 games ago in a competitive game, Aldama played 35 minutes. Last game, obviously, he really struggled. Still played 31 minutes. So the minutes are pretty secure for a guy like Aldama. And looking at his point per minute rate, so with Ja Morant off the court, Aldama's about a fantasy point per minute player. So, yeah, I think he's a pretty solid option, as is Coward. So no issue with those guys getting ownership here. Jalen Wells around 20% ownership, maybe feels a little bit high, especially at 5,200, but has been averaging around 30 minutes per game. And again, should have a little bit more usage here. Brandon Clark, as you mentioned, like how many minutes can he play? Like, I think probably somewhere in that like 10 to 15 minute range. But I mean, we know like historically Brandon Clark is a pretty good point per minute player. And so if you get like on the higher end, maybe you get like 14, 15 minutes out of Brandon Clark. He could definitely put up a score that you need on this slate. So he is interesting to me. I think with Clark, if Clark plays, then I think it's tougher to get to Landale. If Clark is out, then I think you could look to Landale. Right now, only about 15% owned. Would have a little bit more confidence in his minutes. And then the only other guy I really haven't mentioned yet is KCP. Around 20%. I think he's a reasonable value play. His minutes probably tick up a little bit too if Clark doesn't play, just because they would only have 9 bodies there.
Now, this was the end of March 2024. So we're talking like 18 plus months ago. Brandon Clark missed all of that season until he came back in March. He played 6 total games. The first game he played when he came back, he played 21 minutes.
That is,
and I can remember doing a show that day being like, there's no fucking way Brandon Clark is coming back after all of this stuff and playing 21 minutes. You can pull the tape. I've got like a tiny sliver of me in here that thinks that he's just going to come right into 18 to 22 minutes. And all of a sudden it's just like, oh, he was flat 3K in power forward center. Like, shit, should have did that.
That would be wild. But I think I kind of remember that. Again, I have the worst memory, but I think I kind of remember just being like absolutely shocked about his minutes at his first game back. Like, what?
Yeah, like the season was dead. They weren't going anywhere. Like, it was over. They had shut everybody down at that point in time. I was like, that was just like, why would they step on the gas with him? And then they just did. So, it's something I'm keeping my eye on. I have a little bit more than 10%. I could see this going the wrong way, but I don't care if I go the wrong way on a 3K guy. That's not going to stop that lineup from cashing that day. But I am I'm right around the field on Aldama, little light on Coward. And then it's just basically nobody. Way under on KCP, on Wells, on Landale. Not a single share of Triple J. I hope he gives me the business, though. I'd like to see him just be good. But right now, if he's good today, I don't win the monies.
Yeah, I will not win either if he has a ceiling game. So
now, Memphis on the FanDuel slide, slightly different, way more balanced. Vince Williams, 4,100 point guard, shooting guard eligible, aka the correct positions. He is 50% owned there. Coward is also about 50%. And then Aldama and Jackson are both 40. Triple J is only 7K on FanDuel right now. Then it tapers off a little bit to Wells, KCP, Landale. You will not be playing Brandon Clark on the FanDuel side. That one, not nearly as necessary. 3,900 there. That's just not the same sort of value. I mentioned Tails before. You guys should absolutely be signing up at Tails. Don't forget, OddsShopper.com, portfolio EV tool. 7-day free trial if you want to sign up. Links are in the description right now. Take a market-based approach to beating the books. Build out positive EV parlays if you want to. Use the portfolio EV tool to use your bonuses and promos at sportsbooks to get yourself in a better place to turn those over and get a little bit more cash out of them. 7-day free trial for new users. There's absolutely no reason you shouldn't check this out if you haven't done it yet. Link in the description. Final team, Minnesota Timberwolves. No Anthony Edwards. This is something we've been used to over the past few days, and it's happening again. And what is also happening again is a $4,800 Bones Highland, point guard, shooting guard eligible, about 50% owned. Stepped into the starting role last time out, played massive minutes. I didn't think Bones Highland would be in the league any longer at this point. Now starting for the back-to-back conference finalist, Minnesota Timberwolves. And I get it. Like, he's what else are you supposed to do? Like, they're giving him the keys. Bones Highland season today.
Yeah, I think Bones right now looks like one of the better values on the slate. So we've seen 2 games without Anthony Edwards recently here. The first game, Bones got injured after about 5 minutes, but
Yeah.
the second game stayed healthy and played 36 minutes and had a really nice role, played well. Usage was solid, around 20%. Potential assists were decent for Bones too. So yeah, I think he's pretty secure in this lineup right now. And he's getting a lot of ownership. Like he's projecting for about 50% ownership. But I agree. I mean, he is too cheap right now for his role. He should probably be in the like high 5K range. So yeah, I like Bones a lot.
Yeah, he's tough to avoid. I think the most tricky thing for Minnesota is hashing out the rest of their real dudes. The Randall, Gobert, McDaniels, Reed, to a lesser degree, DiVincenzo. He's kind of on a lower tier from an ownership perspective. My first thought when I looked at this matchup was Rudy Gobert is going to grab like 1,000 rebounds against these guys. Triple J doesn't rebound, and that right away, then it's like not that good of a rebounding team to begin with. I think he might have like a pretty stupid rebounding game, especially if the Minnesota defense holds up enough to like watch this Memphis team not be able to create at all with like 10 of their best creators not playing today. If this Memphis team grinds to a halt, can't create good offense, it's just going to be a lot of sloppy shots. I love Rudy Gobert on paper today.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with Gobert. He's one of my favorite plays in the slate. So don't be worried about last game. He left the game early due to personal reasons. But in the first half, he played about 9 minutes or so in the first quarter, and then about 7 minutes or so in the second quarter. So he was pacing for about like 32 minutes if he would have stayed in the court. So I think that's probably what you're expecting for Gobert. The only concern I have with Gobert is we have seen a few games recently where they've closed with Naz Reid over him. And so that's really the only thing that I'm worried about. But as you mentioned, like this is a great spot with Edey off the court for Gobert. And so if the game stays competitive and he closes the game, I think you could definitely see a spot where Gobert has one of those ceiling games, like 45, 50 fantasy points.
Memphis is middle of the pack in taking threes. They're obviously not a great shooting team, which I think is helpful. I think he's going to be fine just running standard issue drop coverage, and they're just not going to be able to get anything created. Because when you can still deploy Jaden McDaniels to like pound whoever has the ball, I think they're just in a real tough spot. So I want to try to get all the negatives that Memphis does and soak that up on the Minnesota side. Julius Randle is the tricky part for me. I've already mentioned I have quite a bit of Donovan Mitchell. I have quite a bit of Josh Giddey. You can only have so many of these 9K guys before you can't roster them anymore. And that is happening to me at least a little bit with Julius Randle. Not that I love it. Positionally, I think he looks great. Obviously, no Ant here. How do you want to manage Randle in relationship to the other two payups?
Yeah, so I think for me, I slightly prefer him to Giddey. Randle to like Donovan Mitchell, I think is close. But yeah, the rates are really good for Randle, obviously without Anthony Edwards. So 2 games ago, he had about a 26% usage rate. Last game, 29% usage rate. He also led the team with 13 potential assists per game in those 2 games, or averaging 13 potential assists. So like I said, the role is really, really good here for Randle. And I think we're probably going to get mid-30s minutes from him in a competitive game. So ownership is there, but I think it's there for a good reason. So yeah, like you're going to have to make some tough calls with the guys at the top. Obviously, Mitchell looks good. Obviously, Josh Giddey looks good. But for me, yeah, I think I would rank Mitchell and Randle slightly ahead of Giddey.
Breaks my heart, but I get it. I get it. It's a great spot for him. I don't hate this at all. Actually, I don't know if I would say it's a great spot. Aldama Triple J front line. I mean, if he starts fouling up Triple J, then this could look really good. Randall's free throws have been up this year. Triple J is himself. If he gets him off the floor, then he'll have very little trouble with the Jock Landale front court anchor. So I like that angle. The Nas Reed piece is obviously interesting. Like if you're personally not big on one of Randall or Gobert, like you kind of naturally just pull the other dude up by default. I think
Yeah.
DiVincenzo is interesting, not grabbing as much ownership too. But where do you want to go with the rest of these guys?
Yeah, so I'm kind of indifferent on McDaniels. Price point's reasonable. He's at a position small four that's tough to fill, so like he's fine. Nas Reed at around 30% ownership maybe feels a little bit high just because the price point at 6,900. So you would probably, if you're going to get a ceiling game from Nas Reed, I think you would probably need him to close the game, most likely. So like it is scary, and I do love playing Nas Reed, but like of these main guys right now, I think he's probably the guy that I'm the most willing to fade, just because really the price point, right? Like Nas has usually been in that like 5,500 range. Now he's up to 6,900. I know the minutes have ticked up, and I know again it's a shorthanded team here, but I think he's the one that I'm most willing to fade of like these main Minnesota guys. You mentioned DiVincenzo, like he's the lowest owned of the main rotation pieces, around 20%. I think that is kind of interesting. He's at a similar price point to Darius Garland. So I think that's a viable pivot. Obviously, I think Garland is the better point per dollar play, but right now Garland's coming in like over 2x the ownership of DiVincenzo. So is Garland that much of a better play than DiVincenzo? I don't know. And especially with the toe issue for Garland, there is some concern. So I think you could look to DiVincenzo as a lower owned pivot, especially to a guy like Garland in a similar price range.
Brandon Clark officially in for today.
Okay, so 25 minutes of Brandon Clark. Here we come.
Just saying. Just saying. Do you have any interest in rolling the dice on a Jalen Clark, a Terrence Shannon, or a Rob Dillingham?
I do, but I'm not super confident in it. So I think if I'm going to take a shot on one of those like secondary pieces from Minnesota right now, like none of those guys are getting any ownership. I think for me, it would be Terrence Shannon. So when Bones got injured a couple games ago, it was Shannon that got extended. So he ended up playing 30 minutes in that game. Obviously, the usage wasn't great for him. You know, he was playing alongside some of the other starters, but they went to Shannon. Now, last game, it was kind of just like a mix of like him, Clark, and Dillingham. Like no one really played a ton. It was 12 minutes for Dillingham, 16 for Clark, and 13 for Shannon. So if something weird happens, maybe Bones struggles or someone else gets in foul trouble, I think the most likely candidate to benefit there would be Shannon. But I don't have a ton of confidence in him. But yeah, I think in a large field tournament, if I'm going to play one of those guys, one of those three, I would be the most willing to take a shot on him.
Okay. Probably my lean as well. The positionality helps there, and I just feel like it's more likely to be him than Clark.
Right.
I don't really have anything else for Minnesota. Let me pull it up on the FanDuel side to outline that quickly. 60% ownership to an $8,900 Julius Randle. I am not surprised to see him being one of the overwhelming best plays on the FanDuel side based on that price tag in this game setup. 55% ownership to Jaden McDaniels. Similar story here. You know, he gets a lot more with Ant not around, has the MPE as well. Bones is 5K, just point guard, so he's 35% owned. Still looks like a fantastic option. Got Nas Reed, Dante DiVincenzo, Rudy Gobert. They're all 30. These guys are all bunched together. Again, I lean Gobert, but FanDuel, different story. Only one center spot. Shannon, Clark, Dillingham, not really in the same sort of discussion that they would be on the DraftKings side. Is there anything we haven't talked about yet with regards to this slate that like was on your mind that you just realized we haven't said yet?
Yeah, there was a question about in the chat. I don't know if I can find it. I saw it a little bit earlier about Mashek for Memphis.
Okay.
Like I think he's going to be in the rotation, but his G League stats are not great at all. Like I was looking at him, he's averaging in the G League 6 games, 31 minutes, 7 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. So if he's putting up those numbers in the G League, then he's probably not someone that we want to get to in the NBA.
We have Jemai Mashak projected for 0.56 fantasy points per minute for today. Just out of curiosity, that is the lowest rate of anyone projected for minutes in our projections today. So
Not surprised.
I'm sure he'll be amazing. Maybe he'll play 48 minutes and then we're all screwed. 24 fantasy points incoming. Chat, if you've got any questions, feel free to drop them. Hit the like button as well. Let's get a couple extra likes here. There's what? How many people are in here? 1,300 plus of you. I mean, there's no reason we can't be hitting that like button, running that number up over like 250, 300 for live before lock, which is going to be coming up shortly. Greg Ehrenberg, Eric Lindquist, taking you all the way to 8 p.m., getting you guys primed and ready for tomorrow's marathon, plus whatever the hell is happening for Thursday night football. I assume there's a game.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game. It's Rams and Seahawks. So
I didn't know the Seahawks were good.
yeah, they're I don't know like their exact record is, but they're up there in the NFC. Both, like, I think the Rams are right at the top. So
go Houston Oilers, I always say. All right. We're going to look at the ownership here for 1 second before we end up getting out of here. 50% to Garland, to Vince Williams, to Bones Highland. Which guy in that trio do you want the least?
Ooh, I guess Garland, because I think there's other viable pivots in that range, and like Vince Williams and Bones are not that you can't fade them, but they're much tougher to fade in my opinion. So I guess if I had to fade one of them, it would be Garland.
I think mine's Bones.
Okay.
I just disproportionately like Garland today. Vince Williams being shooting guard, small forward, and them having only 10 bodies, like it's really hard for him to play like 15 minutes today. I trust that. I could see scenarios where like Bones Highland just gets 24 minutes and the rest of that gets spread over like the rest of those wings and stuff. Because like when push comes to shove, like I like that this is happening for Bones and all, but it's still Bones Highland. He has been an absolute nothing burger for his entire career upwards of like 3 weeks ago. So if he turns back into a pumpkin, that wouldn't shock me. That's it. Like I'm going to be playing a bunch of Bones. He's a great DFS play today. If that doesn't work out, that is the least surprising part of those top three guys for me.
Yeah, he's definitely going to start, but yeah, the role is, it's not like if he struggles, like they could very easily just go to one of those other guys that we talked about. So
they have three other options of like guys that they don't give a shit about that like could rotate into those minutes if he misses 3 straight defensive assignments or something, which is on the table for sure.
So yeah, I think Vince Williams of the group is probably the toughest to fade. So incoming like 2 quick fouls and I'll be on full tilt mode.
Just minutes, position, role, like all of he's checking every single box today. He's to me, he'd be the toughest one to get away from. Yep. And you said with regards to pay-ups, you would have Giddey as third in the Donovan Mitchell, Julius Randle, Josh Giddey trio.
I would. I think I would have Mitchell 1, Randle 2, and Giddey 3, but like that's not super confident.
Right now, I think mine is Giddey, Mitchell, Randle. So, like, and that's just a testament to like how hard that decision is. They're all 3 great plays. I'd be happy to have any one of them in any individual lineup. They're the 3 best plays of the day when it comes to like raw points. So, what are you gonna do?
Someone asked about GG Jackson. He is with the G League, so he is not available.
Yeah, they didn't really plan ahead for this one in the way that they should. It's live before lock time, ladies and gentlemen, or at least it's pretty close. 7:14. We're gonna call it for the NBA Deeper Dive. So, guys, Greg Ehrenberg, Eric Lindquist, it is time for live before lock. Well, we got one. Nope, we had one. Now we lost him. And we have now this gimmick's getting old. I hope it kicks you out permanently.
Yeah. It's fine. The show got better for a second. So, guys, it is time for NBA Live Before Lock, like Josh said, and 2-gamer, which means, first off, Josh, DK, have a good night. But it means that all kinds of weirdness can end up happening on the show because we often, whoa, what is happening here? Josh is frozen, but like not here at the same time.
Josh is like herpes. We can't get rid of him.
Yeah.
Stuck forever to our cock. We can't get out of it.
Yeah, but a lot of us would prefer herpes. All right, let's see if there's, how do we, does the audience see the black spinning circle? Or
Sure do. I just removed him. He's gone.
All right. And now he's in it doesn't matter. Nobody else is going to notice this, but Eric and I will. It's going to bother my OCD over the course of the show. Somehow Josh is here twice in the back end, but also here 0 times at the same time. So whatever. We got him off screen. That's what's most important. Do Eric and I a favor as you come in here, guys. Like the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. For the next 45 minutes, we're going to break down this 2-game slate, which is going to include answering any questions you guys have. And every once in a while, in 1-2 game slates, we end up, going a little off the rails because you run out of just basketball things to talk about sometimes when there's a 90-minute show only dedicated to a 2-game slate. But Eric, I do want to know from you, and then we'll go over some of the injuries here. Do you have any general hot takes for tonight's games? And if not, that's totally fine.
No.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable stance to be taking. Just was curious as we started to get in because you never know. I thought maybe there might have been something you were very opinionated on. We just got the Cavs starting lineup. Garland, Mitchell, Tyson, Wade, Allen, nothing crazy in there. Here's our injury reports for today. I would assume who's out for the Bulls. Sam Merrill's out for the Cavs. Then in the other game, I was going to call it the later game, but it's just the other game. They lock at the same time. We've got for Memphis, Brandon Clark in. He's going to be making his season debut. John Moran is out. Cam Spencer is out. And then on the Minnesota side of the game, Mike Conley is out. Anthony Edwards is out. And then also we've got Rudy Gobert in. He was initially questionable to play last night with what was being called a personal matter, but Rudy Gobert will be in. So amongst all of the injuries here, I know the most important news is from the other Memphis-Minnesota game, not the first game we talked about, but John Morant and Anthony Edwards both being out. But I'm just curious because this news just broke a few minutes ago. How many minutes could Brandon Clark potentially play today?
I think the cap is like 21. I heard a tiny bit of what they were saying before the show where they're like, maybe it was just facetious where he was like 25 minutes. Here we go from DK. But maybe they had talked about it a little bit earlier. I would be surprised to see him play over 21 minutes. Just long knee surgery situation. Memphis is playing better as an entire team. They went out and got Olivier Maxence Prosper, who was just a cast off, played like 2-3 minutes in a couple of these spots. Now doesn't really make sense to even have him in the rotation. Brandon Clark's a much, much better player. This probably hurts a little bit of the ceiling of Santi Aldama coming off the bench just because they'll come in together and some of the rebound rate, some of the other stuff you might see from Santi Aldama down low is now going to be just a little bit more Brandon Clark down low. But I don't think it changes a lot for me on this. He's 3K, so he was already going to be in play, period. We're going to get an update now that, he's in, now that we kind of have an idea of, say that again.
I said, we just got the update.
Oh, literally. Okay.
Yeah. So I have it on the screen here. Yeah.
Cool.
Here's what we got for Brandon Clark. We put him in for 14 minutes. That has him for around 14 fantasy points. We have him projected as a 0.98 fantasy point per minute guy today. We got him just under 10% ownership, just over 10% chance of being optimal. So I did run the Sims here really quick after we got the update. And Brandon Clark, not showing up in a ton of lineups, but he's showing up in some. Not somebody would ever consider on a slate that had like 5-6 games or anything like that. But for a 2-game slate, he's worth, let's say you guys are playing 10 lineups, he's worth having in like one of those 10.
Yeah, one thing I've been doing a lot more, I'm not sure if anybody else does this. It's just something I like to do on the NBA shows. I'm playing 150 on FanDuel. I'm playing 1 on DK today. Just yesterday, I had some good success with my guy Harper, Dylan Harper, going completely ballistic in the flex there. Him and Cornette and Mitchell Robinson over on FanDuel. So I have some extra funds there. So I'm playing 150 there. I'm playing one lineup on DK, but like I just ran the optimal over in the single lineup sim for both sites. And that's kind of what I was curious of, was like, if we got Brandon Clark to like 18 minutes, I was curious if he was going to break an optimal lineup, Greg, but like at 14, there's no chance that he's going to break it, even at a fantasy points per minute. Like he's 3K flat over on DK. And I was just kind of curious where we had it going. Cause like you can play eternal amount of Memphis guys on DK. On FanDuel, you can't. On FanDuel, you're playing 4 tops of anybody on any team. And so also with Bones Highland there at 5K, I thought it was something that just made a lot more sense to like play more FanDuel today. I know it's kind of comparable 4,800 on DK, but he's just far, far more popular over on DK today. So I'm playing mostly FanDuel, but wanted to point out that Brandon Clark did not crack it at 3K flat over on DK. And that's kind of what I was waiting to see. If we had him at 17, 18 minutes, there was a chance he got into like borderline cash territory, which would be insane.
Yeah, not quite there. He's a viable contrarian option. The other thing to consider too, so many injuries for Brandon Clark over the last few years. He had most notably, the torn Achilles. That was something that he dealt with, 2 years ago? So there have been a long list of injuries for Brandon Clark, with him making his season debut and that long list of injuries. If this was his first game back to start the year, but it was a few years ago, then I think there's a little bit longer of a leash. But with all the injuries that have mounted for him, I think they're going to be very cautious with his minutes for his first game back.
You want to go over the Cavs starting lineup too?
Yeah. I just read it off. So we also have DeAndre Hunter. We got the note there. He's coming off the bench and will be for the foreseeable future. One thing that's actually kind of interesting that I want to check is what are, if any, 6-man of the year odds for DeAndre Hunter. Let's see. Now I'm kind of curious on this. He might not have any just because he's been coming off, but just because he's been starting for a while. But he's kind of an interesting 6-man of the year candidate because Jaime Jaquez is your leading candidate, but his minutes have gone down a little bit lately. So I'm curious to see if we've got 6-man of the year odds for DeAndre Hunter. But what do you make of the starting lineup for the Cavs? Hunter coming off the bench, Wade starting.
Jalen Tyson starting. Wade was already starting. I thought we had it backwards. I thought Basketball Monster had it backwards. I thought pretty much everybody did. There was nothing really to take advantage of the marketplace because Dean Wade is not a very good fantasy asset. But I was 99.9% certain that everybody had it fucking wrong and Dean Wade was going to start. My question was mainly, is Tyson going to start over Hunter? And we got the answer for that because a lot of sites had Hunter, including us, had Hunter starting at the 4. And that made no sense to me after Dean Wade started last game. He put up 14 points, played really well offensively, and he's one of the best defensive players in the league. I don't think people recognize how good Dean Wade is defensively. He is top 10 in percentile over on dunks and threes and EPM on the defensive end of the floor. He is one of those guys who just, you watch him, he's rangy. He also is just very good closing out against every single type of player, whether that's a guard, forward, he can guard multiple positions. Dean Wade is a Swiss Army knife on the defensive end of the floor. If he's knocking down shots, he's always been somebody that I thought was like, all right, we can walk into a fantasy game. He's not a good fantasy producer by any means. He's definitely there because of his defensive prowess. But Jalen Tyson is an offensive forward player. And DeAndre Hunter coming off the bench, I like that you're talking through the process of like 6th man odds. I think that makes some sense. But there's no doubt that Jalen Tyson just looks way, 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 way better. He opened at 21.5 PRA. He was at 22.5 PRA. Now it's going to go up to like 23, 24.5 here before we get to close. I've been paying attention to that line because I thought it was somewhat advantageous even at 22.5, but you kind of miss the boat if you're me here now with Jalen Tyson. I think he's far more appealing. I know he's playing alongside Garland, Mitchell, Allen. It's not going to be crazy, but the minutes have to go up. You got to add 2-3 minutes to the portfolio, and like Hunter, you're taking it down. So like Jalen Tyson's a much, much better play than he was like 5 minutes ago.
So something to add to this too, it'll be a tie-in to Tails. You guys should be following Eric, myself, and everybody else over at Tails. Download the Tails app. It's totally free. You could also go to tails.bet in your search bar if you just want to go to Tails. So Eric, I have my same game parlays, which have been doing really well. I've been running super hot on the same game.
I killed you yesterday and I forgot about it. I was
Eric. Eric's just probably sitting there like, hey, look at this nice bet I won, not even knowing that.
$170 in my account.
Yeah, which also I caught some shit for that because I had all of the Wemby unders yesterday, and then it comes out afterwards his grandma died earlier in the day. People thinking like I killed his grandma in order to win my same game parlay and get $80. Yeah, you were
Crime Lord Greg Ehrenberg, Terry Rozier. He's got him in pocket. He's got Wemby's grandma on. Oh man, I'm not even going to make a joke. Obviously, that's like off limits. But Wemby, he did not look right yesterday. I tweeted it out a couple times. His plus minus, he had the worst plus minus on the entire team. That's never happened in his career with the San Antonio Spurs. First game ever. I got to imagine he's a young kid. I remember when my grandma died and I wasn't playing professional basketball. I was 19 and it was the most devastating thing ever. So I can only imagine what it'd be like to play in an NBA Cup Finals and have the spotlight on you and, try to play basketball in that situation. Pretty insane stuff.
All right. So Eric trying to put the damper on my same game parlay win and trying to
congrats though, Greg. Satan.
Just letting people know the hot take that having a family member die is not great. But anyway, I didn't know about that when I placed the bet earlier in the morning, but I had the Knicks spread -2.5 with all of the Wemby unders because I thought his minutes were going to be limited, and did end up hitting on that. And it was now 3 of the last 4 slates I've hit on a same game parlay with a boosted one over on FanDuel. So the tie into the slate today is I have a 3-leg same game parlay that I posted to Tails. It's over 12.5 points for Tyson. And then it's also the over assist on Vucevic and Kobe White because I thought Dosunmu was going to be rolled out. So going to have a good amount of CLV on that now that Tyson's confirmed in the starting lineup. And if you guys want to get access to those bets and everything else that Eric and everybody else posts to Tails, just head over there, download the app, follow us, turn on notifications, because then when I place a bet, you'll be able to get the best odds before some of the lines move. But as far as today goes, I agree with you. Like, I already thought that Tyson was undervalued for tonight, Eric. And now I think he looks even better now that he is confirmed starting. So we don't have him at some kind of crazy cheap price point just because he's been somebody who's, been pretty solid for the entire year. So he's $6,200 over on DraftKings. On FanDuel, Tyson is $6,300. That's a playable price point for him, though, the way that he's been going this season.
Yeah, 6,300 is probably going to keep his ownership somewhat in check on FanDuel, too. I will say this, too. Having played FanDuel a lot more the last week, people are dumb. Like, FanDuel ownership is so off relative to where it should be. I've enjoyed it a lot, and I don't know why I haven't been playing over there more. Part of it is being on the shows and, in the NFL Live before Lock Streets on Sundays, I'll build a couple on FanDuel just so I can have the talking points, but people really want us to focus on DK. It's the biggest of the 2 sites, and so it is what it is. But FanDuel, man, I cannot tell you the edge there. And 6,300 Jalen Tyson was already somebody that I was pinpointing on. I'll see what his ownership turns to, but I don't think it'll get high enough to get to a place where we're not going to be playing it.
Yeah, 1-2 in the chat wants to know, are there any limits to what I will do to win a bet? #free Rogier. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Hey, must be the money if you want to go and take a ride with me.
Giving the wins out to you guys, too. We got some super chats here for us. This one is from Mitch Williams, massive Eric fan. Eric, my guy, all love to my 2 dudes, just saying thanks. So, Mitch,
glad I changed my account. That's my burner. It's fine. Don't mind me.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mitch. It is appreciated, the nice message. And then as well, Chris Williams, our guy Chris, who works over at Apple, 10 YouTube memberships gifted out. So, Chris, thank you very much as well for supporting the channel. And for anybody else who wants to know the best ways to support us, download Tails, leave us a nice 5-star rating over there, maybe write a couple of cents of a review, like this video, subscribe to the channel. These are things that only take a couple seconds of your time, and they are totally free of cost, and they really do benefit us a whole bunch. Let's see if there was any questions in the Discord. No, not quite yet. So let's see if projections are updated for the Cavs starting lineup. That they are. So let's give a look at the Cavs here in our data. Yeah, so let's filter by the Cavs.
0.25%? Yeah, I mean,
and
25.
We've got.
You got to go
would have helped if I put in Cleveland instead of Cavs. Yeah. So all right,
like to be a
here we go.
It's fine.
So we have a just under 50 fantasy point projection for Donovan Mitchell. Jalen Tyson, his projection relative to 2-game slate, he's not a great option. He's viable, though. Just under 30 fantasy points at $6,200. Then you got DeAndre Hunter. Hunter, to me, becomes pretty unplayable off the bench now.
Correct. And, okay, unplayable is not the word. It's a 2-game slate. Let's keep that in mind. There's also this thing that happens when you come off the bench where you're probably avoiding the main rotation of like a Donovan Mitchell to some extent. So maybe your rates can potentially catch up to what the difference is in your minutes, but he's 5,800, only small forward. There's only 3 positions he can show up at. So for me, it's not even the price tag and the role that are that big of an issue. It's the small forward only positionality, because you have Jalen Tyson, shooting guard, small forward, can play multiple spots there. He's starting. We know he's going to get more minutes. Like, it gets really, really thin for me at 5,800 on DK only. Obviously, I'm playing one lineup there today on FanDuel, 6,300 for Tyson. And obviously, that's where I think it's going to get really hard. Do you know the price tag for DeAndre Hunter over on FanDuel for today?
Oh, let me go ahead. I don't know it off the top of my head, so I'll have to go in and switch over to
5,100. It's really tough figuring out what I want to do with him on FanDuel right now. And obviously I'm playing there more, so I'm thinking about it, but 5,100 as opposed to Jalen Tyson 6,300. What I do with DeAndre Hunter, I'm just worried that he'll have artificial ownership because that price tag's already low. People might have built their lineups earlier. We've only come into this show, 45 minutes before lock? Like, it's not the typical hour where things can marinate for a little while. I get really worried about what his ownership on FanDuel could end up being relative to his chances of succeeding.
Yeah, so let's check out Hunter over on FanDuel. I've got the Sims rerunning right now for FanDuel and DraftKings for myself as well. We got Hunter $5,100 projected for 22.5 fantasy points on FanDuel. We got him just under 20% ownership and slightly over-owned right now at the slightly under 20% ownership.
I think he could end up being a 0.25% owned. Like, he's 5,100. And if you build lineups over there, I hand built a couple. And then, I'm playing the full 150 and like some of the main stuff. And I think, Greg, we're going to see him end up more popular than he should be already. So I'm almost hitting full eject on DeAndre Hunter at 5,100 on FanDuel. I'm forcing in some more Tyson just because I think that $1,200 is really going to kind of force you into some interesting builds. Maybe this is just kind of a feel thing, doing this every single day, talking through NBA Live Before Lock every Monday through Friday. But like, I am pretty certain that the ownership gap could be less accentuated than we're showing in projections. And I think we're doing a fantastic job updating. And what really matters is what we're projecting them for. And I'm very much in line with where we have his projection, Jalen Tyson, relative to DeAndre Hunter. And I'd be surprised if in 150, I even got to like 10% of DeAndre Hunter where he's currently at.
So I reran the Sims for DraftKings and FanDuel. He showed up in 0 out of 150 top lineups on DraftKings. And then on FanDuel, he showed up pretty comparable to his ownership, but still sub 20%, which I think that's pretty fair. Don't want to play him over on DraftKings. And then on FanDuel, he warrants being in some lineups, but not all that many. That's the way I see it.
100% with you.
I see we got a super chat here. This is from our guy, Ace of Spade. He wants to know the most logical options for DK tiers tonight, Eric. So let's pull up DK tiers and figure out the most logical plays today for our guy, Ace of Spade. All right, tiers. We've got in tier 1, Eric, Donovan Mitchell, Josh Giddey, and Julius Randle. Who do you like the most in tier 1?
Donovan Mitchell.
That is going to be Donovan Mitchell for myself as well. We've got him projected for like 5 more fantasy points than everybody else on the entire slate. Yeah. Let me go back over to DraftKings.
Large gap.
Him. Yeah, he is at 5 more fantasy points than Julius Randle. Hard to ignore that kind of projection gap. It is going to be Donovan Mitchell in tier 1. Tier 2, John Morant, who's out. Kobe White, Triple J, Darius Garland, Naz Reid. So what do you want to do in tier 2, Eric?
Jaren Jackson Jr.
That is going to be Darius Garland for me.
Oh,
tier 3, we've got Vooch, McDaniel, Santi Aldama, Dante DiVincenzo. We've got Coward and Tyson. Who do we like the most in tier 3?
I think Coward is going to be really low owned. And I think he, relative to Santi Aldama, where I think that ownership will be, I like the Coward side.
That is going to be Jaden McDaniels as my answer. Let's see. In tier 4, Rudy Gobert, Jared Allen. Sorry, what's that?
Gobert, move on.
Well, let me finish looking at all the other options and reading. We got Gobert, Allen. I mean, I lean Gobert, but I don't think there's that big of a gap between Naz Reid and Jared Allen, especially with Evan Mobley out. With this starting lineup being what it is for the Cavs, I think there's a lot of rebound opportunities for Allen.
Did you say Naz Reid?
Gobert, Allen. Well, you didn't let me finish. It's Gobert, Allen, Buzelis, Hunter, and Landale.
I never do. Naz Reid is not in that tier, but you said Naz Reid's name. That's why I'm saying Rudy Gobert for me.
All right, tier 5. I'm going to say Gobert, but not as clear cut as it was for you. It's going to be pretty close to me between Allen and Gobert, but I'll lean towards Gobert. Tier 5, we've got Jones, Herter, Vince Williams, Wells, Ball, Smith, and Bones Highland.
Bones Highland? Is that insane? No, Vince Williams Jr. I'm a liar.
Another one I think is pretty close between Vince Williams and Bones Highland, but I will go with Vince Williams, same as yourself. And now finally, tier 6, we've got KCP, Dean Wade, who's now starting, Zach Collins, Naquan Tomlin, we've got Terrence Shannon, and then also Thomas Bryant. It is a real who's who in tier 6.
Dean Wade.
I'm going to go with KCP as my answer in tier 6. And then also related to the Cavs starting lineup, is Dean Wade somebody you want to be getting to today now that he is confirmed as a starter?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of was building that way already. I thought Dean Wade, just because he started last game, and it felt as though it was just kind of weird to me that Dean Wade wouldn't be the de facto starter again. Bazelis, Vooch on the other side, like, kind of made sense to me, but that was not the way it was projected across the industry. But Dean Wade is not somebody who is going to actively put up a ton of shots, be somebody who I thought was like a great back, just because like his usage is so low, his opportunity is so low. He's so good on one end of the floor, but like if he's not doing it with blocks and stocks, and that's not even like the major portion of why he's a good defender. It's not like he's going out and creating massive amounts of turnovers as you go like through some of his splits. So like, it's such a hard thing for me. He averages 0.5 blocks and 0.8 steals per game. And yet he's like 96th percentile defense. So like, he's fine. He's somebody who I'm going to have a little bit over on FanDuel, but like, there was nothing to like take advantage of by being right about it. So you just kind of like wait for it to show up. And hey, here we are, Dean Wade. DeAndre Hunter, obviously behind Jalen Tyson, I think is the more appealing like talking point, but Dean Wade is fine to show up. He scored 14 last time out. That's going to be like an outlier type scoring outcome for Dean Wade. He's just fine. He's just a dude who you can slide into a couple of lineups, but like him winning you a slate is very unlikely. Him being like functional because of his salary price point, that's a little bit more of where I think of Dean Wade.
Showed up in about 20% of lineups for me. And once again, another one of these guys, like we talked about Brandon Clark before, although he's better play for tonight than Brandon Clark is, would not be considering at all if there was more than 2 games on the slate, but we're kind of limited in options. We're kind of limited overall on cheaper options for today. So you go ahead and you look, overall at the options that we have available to us at power forward, and it's a thin position today. Like if you guys run the Sims, Santi Aldama and Julius Randle are going to show up in a ton of lineups. It's not because Aldama projects out pretty well relative to his price point. Randle doesn't, but it's just another one too. Naz Reid projects for 33 fantasy points at $6,900. He's also going to show up in a good amount of lineups. I think there's a scenario here where the winning power forward today is potentially a cheap guy who's just like okay for their salary because nobody has a big game as one of the spend up options. So power forward's relatively weak. Dean Wade is pretty cheap. That's what brings him into play. Not necessarily in love with it or anything like that, but he's viable.
Viable is the right word.
All right, let's see. Was there any super chats for us? Nothing else. Any questions in the Discord for us to get caught up on? And we are good there. Oh, no, never mind. Our guy, Young Metro Boomin. Young Metro Boomin wants to know our favorite players to roster on FanDuel at each position, Eric, which absolutely. Yep. Let's get into that. Beginning at point guard, and I am going to go with Vince Williams Jr. as my favorite point guard option.
Yeah, point guard only on FanDuel today, which is kind of fun.
No, he's point guard shooting guard.
Really? Hang on.
Yeah.
What did I look at? Oh, yeah, point guard shooting guard. Yeah, he's in like 100% of my lineups. So, yeah, he's in 90% of my lineups today. So, I just figured he was point guard only. Never mind. Point guard, shooting guard, 90%. He's my answer for shooting guard, Greg.
I'm going to go Donovan Mitchell at shooting guard. We went over this before, and we're talking about tier 1. I think he's the best pay up option on the slate, and it just makes sense from our projections. You look at on DraftKings, mentioned that we got him projected for 5 more fantasy points than everybody else. Over on FanDuel, the gap between him and everybody else, it is also about the same, 5 fantasy point gap between him and Julius Randle. So I'm going to go Donovan Mitchell here, my favorite overall spend up option on the slate. At small forward, that is going to be Cedric Coward for me.
Yeah, Jaden McDaniels for me.
Okay. Power forward, that is going to be
Mile.
Man, power forward does suck today.
Julius Randle by a mile.
I'll go Randle too. He really doesn't project well relative to his salary, but the options are just poor.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he's like nearly 5x. I mean, he's whatever, 42.5 fantasy points. He's 8,900. I know it's expensive, but like
he's 60% owned with that projection though.
I know. It's obnoxious, but like him, Mitchell, and Vince Williams, if one of them fails, I'm probably going to have a bad day on FanDuel, and I'm all right with it.
At center, that is going to be Jared Allen for me.
Rudy Gobert for me.
Yeah. Once again, I think Jared Allen and Rudy Gobert are very close. I felt the same way about tiers, but I knew you were going to answer Rudy Gobert after what you'd said before on tier. So I'll go Jared Allen as an alternative option. But once again, very, very comparable options for me for today. So, all right, we are all caught up on questions, Eric. We're about halfway through the show, which I think makes for a perfect time for us to do the nuke of the night. All right, Eric, I am interested to see how crazy you're going to go with your nuke of the night for today, because you could go super crazy on a 2-game slate, or you could pretty reasonably pick somebody who's like 15 to 20% owned, have them in, 2x the amount of lineups the field has in. And that's also an acceptable way to go. But I want to hear from you. Which direction are you going in with your nuke of the night?
Yeah, here's the thing. Sometimes like there's a Craig Porter Jr. who's 5% who puts up 57 fantasy points at 3,600 and I look like a god. The other times it's like, well, I could try to force it. I could like say something really, really outlandish where I don't actually believe it and I hope it hits. But, at the same time, I'm not actually I'm not that guy. I will always stand behind something that I absolutely believe in. I don't really have that on this slate, Greg. I don't have an outlandish take. I'm pretty flat across my exposures, even on FanDuel. So I will say this. There's one guy on FanDuel that's interesting to me and one guy on DK that's interesting to me. On FanDuel, I'm not going to make Jock Landale at 5,300 my nuke, but he is 4,500 over on FanDuel. And I think Jock Landale is a guy who played 27 minutes the last two. Zach Edey's out for the foreseeable future. You have Rudy Gobert on the other side. And I did post something over at Tails where I do think Rudy Gobert, just the way we've been utilizing him, he's always been somebody who inclines to go underneath ball screens. And Vince Williams Jr., he had a lot of rapport. In fact, he had like a 60% assist rate with Zach Edey on the floor. Like an insane, not even real thing. But that's different with Jock Landale. It'll be a lot more pick and pop. And the assist rate obviously comes down because if somebody's shooting more threes, they have an opportunity.
I'm gonna have to cut you off here because I don't know how much the Grizzlies starting lineup is so far different from what we thought it was going to be. Vince Williams isn't starting. Brandon Clark is starting.
The fuck?
Starting lineup for the Grizzlies. By the way, I think now I was pretty sure that the Grizzlies were going to be conservative with Brandon Clark's minutes. I still don't think he plays 30 or anything like that. But now that he's starting, this completely changes the equation on, I think, what we should be expecting from him as a potential value option. Now that he's starting at min price, I think he's the best value option on the slate. Jalen Wells, Cedric Coward, Santi Aldama, Triple J, Brandon Clark. Those are your starters.
What the shit are we doing? What are we doing, Greg?
We're playing Brandon Clark is what we're doing.
Well, hang on. So let me check this quick. The hell? I hate everything. Hang on. Duke. Duke, you got to get up. Mom needs to walk you quick. Just you do whatever you need to do quick. Duke, you got to go outside. Mom's asking for you. Duke, come on, get up. Get up.
Look at what happens. The Grizzlies changed their starting lineup, and Duke isn't allowed to be in Eric's office anymore.
I have 150 lineups in play on FanDuel. Duke needs to get out of the office now.
Yeah, Eric's camera's off. He is freaking out. This is a full meltdown here from Eric with Brandon Clarke starting for today. So a couple of things are going to change here. First off, Brandon Clarke, like I just said, I think that he's the best value play on the slate. I'm going to make him my nuke of the night right now. I know this seems a little bit obvious. A min-price center who just thrust into the starting lineup, but I don't know how much people are going to react on just, 15 minutes notice. The slate starts in 15 minutes. Brandon Clarke, not only was Brandon Clarke obviously not expected to start, we didn't even find out until, an hour ago that Brandon Clarke was even going to be playing today. So Brandon Clarke, to me, best overall value option on the slate. Now, what I'm also really interested to see from our data when it updates, what is this going to do to Vince Williams? Because Vince Williams was showing up in a shit ton of lineups on DraftKings and FanDuel running the Sims. And now, what are we going to expect from him coming off the bench, Eric?
I don't know. I just put a Zen in and I'd kick my dog out of the office. I'm focused. I don't know what to do. This is annoying. This is so annoying. I had built my lineups. I wasn't going to change much. And now I have to change everything. This is annoying. So I was going on the Jock Landale conversation piece. He's not the nuke of the night on either side here anymore. I'm with you where Brandon Clarke, his minutes are not 14 anymore. Even if he gets like a first 5-6 minute rotation here for each one of those, and then you add 3 more in extra, that's 15. And we're talking about a 3K flat guy, and we're talking about him starting. We're talking about everything here. And this news came out late. I love everything about Brandon Clarke. He's going to be my nuke of the night along with you. Sorry about it. You have to deal with that. This also makes Josh Giddey exponentially more interesting to me because I think Mitchell Giddey lineups just make more sense now. And Giddey's the guy who kind of was getting squeezed out of the equation. We all like the Donovan Mitchell side. We all wanted to play Donovan Mitchell, but like when you add a 3K flat guy into the equation, doesn't Josh Giddey at, he's already 57% over on FanDuel, but like, I feel like he's almost a lock button too. Like I'm just going to play Mitchell, Giddey, Clarke, and just deal with anybody who doesn't have that combination.
I love the slippery slope it is for you that like Brandon Clarke starting became a gateway drug for Eric. He's like, Brandon Clarke starting, the dog's out of the house. I've got to pop his in. Like, I'm trying to think like, what if there's a really crazy lineup? Like, what happens? Eric's like, shit. What he's in rehab. He's explaining how he started on fentanyl, and he's like, look, it all started. Brandon Clarke got ruled into the starting lineup for the Grizzlies, and it was all downhill from there. So
yeah, he put $800 in play on FanDuel one time, and he's just lost his mind. No, we got to focus now, though. We got to actually focus. He's 3,900 on FanDuel. What do you think about FanDuel, Brandon Clarke, 3,900?
So he's much better looking on DraftKings where he's 3K. Okay. And here's what we did for projections, by the way. We've got Brandon Clarke in for 17 minutes. That has him for just about 17 fantasy points. His ownership is still sub 20% on DraftKings. So I really feel good about Brandon Clarke as a not very popular option with the lateness of this news. So over on DraftKings, Brandon Clarke, really strong value option. Vince Williams still in play, but doesn't look nearly as good. Still viable, but this was somebody who before, when I'd run lineups in The Sims, he was in like 80% of lineups. Now I'm rerunning everything. We've got him in for 25 minutes. That has him for just under 27 fantasy points at $4,900. Still a great option, but just not going to show up in as many lineups as he was before.
Yeah, he's still a good option, though, because I can't imagine they want to play something named a Jemai Mashik all that much. So there's that. John Morant's out. Cam Spencer's out. Scottie Pippen and Javon Small have been out forever. It's still fine, I think, to play Vince Williams. I have no problem with Vince Williams whatsoever. I actually hope his ownership comes down quite a bit because I don't feel all that different. Like even back when Vince Williams was starting and like playing a prominent role in this team, there were a lot of times he capped out at like 26, 27 minutes. I'm not sure if people paid attention to that, Greg, but like he started early November, like around the Knicks time. He played like 24 to 30 minutes in like all of those starts. In fact, he's only had one game he's played more than 30 minutes all season long. And so like, does it change Vince Williams in like a very huge way? I don't know, but he's already a good fantasy producer. He's coming off the bench. He's going to have to be offensively forward no matter what. I don't think it changes a lot for me with him, but now 3,900 Brandon Clark on FanDuel is going to give me a headache. That's why I kicked the dog out, because I couldn't deal with my life in its current. I'm going to be a great dad, by the way. I'm going to be a great dad. I can't kick the baby out of here, so I can kick a dog out of here. But God, Cedric Coward probably looks a little bit better both sites too, just because 5,600 on FanDuel. He's going to look, he already was going to show up a ton for me. He's outrageous in a starting unit without Vince Williams Jr. Who's going to be creating for this team in this starting lineup? Jaren Jackson Jr.?
Possibly. Or, here's the actual answer. Nobody. The offense is going to suck and nobody's going to create for them. There doesn't have to be somebody who's a good playmaker. It'll just be a bad looking offense. I think that's the most likely scenario. Also, I've got everything updated in the Sims, and here's the final stance I have here on Vince Williams is still a good option. Not going to say anything too different from what I was speculating on before running the Sims, but instead of him being in 80% of lineups, he's in 40% of lineups now. So it's still a lot. It's just not where it was at before.
There you go. That's a good way of looking at it.
Let's see. Do we have any other super chats or questions that came in here from Discord? I know it's just a 2-game slate here. We do have a 1v1 question from Krebsy. McDaniels or Tyson for tonight, Eric?
God, it's so hard. Which site?
You didn't specify.
FanDuel, Tyson, DK, McDaniels.
It'll be McDaniels for me on both sites as my answer for that one. McDaniels. And
$400 difference on FanDuel.
We're caught up on questions here. I don't know how you're doing updating your lineups, but does the Grizzlies starting lineup change impact anybody other than Brandon Clark and Vince Williams for you?
Josh Giddey. I was planning on undercutting Josh Giddey over on FanDuel. Now that I have a $3,900 play, power forward only over on FanDuel, that's going to show up in my lineups a little bit more, I have to play Josh Giddey more. I guess power forward center, Brandon Clark as well. But it looks like going through my lineups, I had a ton of Gobert. That's not going anywhere. The Jock Landale is going to go away too. 4,500 on FanDuel I thought was really appealing at 12%. That's not very appealing off the bench when you think about him playing like 23, 24 minutes. He had played 27 minutes back-to-back games out of the starting unit. And without Zach Edey there, it was like, all right, well, we're going to get him against a true center. Life's going to be good. But now it looks like they want to isolate Jock Landale against Naz Reid, which I don't love for Jock Landale here, because Naz Reid will push him on the perimeter. And part of why I bet him at -130 to hit a 3, why I bet his 2+3s and 3+3s. Eitan and I were both on this today, kind of working through the process of it. He's shooting 43% from 3. He's been incredible from 3 this season. The volume hasn't been there, but Rudy Gobert sinks underneath every single screen when you watch Minnesota Timberwolves games, like more than he even had done in his Utah days, where he got torched against the Terrence Manns of the world with the Clippers in that playoff series, the Chris Pauls. Like, there's a lot of times that we've seen Rudy Gobert really sag to help and be the rim protector, and it's been bad against 3-point shooters. But now with Naz Reid being the primary guy against Jock Landale, he's not going to get a lot of these open looks. I'm worried about his volume, and I would say it really downgrades Landale because I had 25% of him on FanDuel. I'm probably going to end up with like damn near 0. And the other thing is Brandon Clark being added. I'm just going to get to Josh Giddey at or above the field, whereas I was under the field on him coming into lock.
So one other guy that I think looks marginally better as a result of this is going to be Cedric Coward, who I already had interest in before, but just to the question you said before, who's going to create offense for the Memphis Grizzlies? I actually do think the realistic answer is nobody, and they're going to really struggle to score today. But Cedric Howard's been a standout rookie so far this season. And now I think that there's just more opportunity for him to have to do something on offense. For a while, I was taking shots on Triple J as a contrarian option. There was a few slates where I did that when Ja Morant was out earlier in the year. If anybody's playing Triple J, I'm not going to fault you for it, but something's off this year. I don't know what it is. He's just not been the same player so far to this season. But I'll take shots on a modestly owned Cedric Howard. He's 27% owned over on DraftKings. I'm getting well overweight to the field to him. Over on FanDuel, we've got Cedric Howard at, let's see, what's the updated ownership on him? Yeah, 48%. So he's more popular on FanDuel, but he's still one of my most rostered players there. I just think he gets more responsibility with him being staggered minutes with Vince Williams.
I do think this is conspiracy, Eric, and this is just like diehard NBA listening to Bill Simmons, listening to some other people. I'm a big believer that like Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ja Morant really did not like Iasolo. Like I don't think they liked the head coach. They didn't like Taylor Jenkins, but I think they thought that they could force somebody else to come in. So like a new guy, they could like pick and choose their own guy. And they basically upgraded a guy from interim into the head coaching spot. And I don't think it's been a very easy transition. And like Ja Morant's been the very outspoken one, but something tells me Jaren Jackson Jr., who's generally been a very quiet, put to himself guy over the course of his career, just kind of keeps his head down, plays, does whatever else, even though he's very physical, very good defender, does a lot of other things well that aren't in the box score. I do think that they're not huge fans of his. And he won like Euro Cup of the Year coach in 2024 with Finland or whatever. Like he's a good coach, but I don't think he clicks for those two guys. And they're the team. Like those are the two guys you need to be reaching the most. And I think it's just kind of like leaked into their play in a way where they're like, all right, maybe we could find our own exit route. Maybe we can only like do our own things. So like, I don't know why things have gone as sour as they were, but like Jaren Jackson Jr. just looks checked out watching him play basketball. He looks checked out to me. And like, it was nice to see one good game from him last time out, but like routinely you put on Memphis games because they've been very fantasy viable. I was jamming Zach Edey every slate for 2 weeks. I cannot tell you how unengaged Jaren Jackson Jr. looks. It's wild.
SMP saying that Ja got him hired. The hire was to let Ja run more pick and roll. I don't know in the offseason. I do know this, though. Ja got suspended for one game, I guess it was last month. Ja got suspended.
Detrimental to the team.
But it was because of him getting into some kind of dispute with the coach. So I don't know how well that relationship has been going. But only a couple minutes to go until lock. We got one more question here in Discord. This is from Bees and Yo Ass. He wants to know Mitchell and Vince Williams or Dante DiVincenzo and Triple J. Give me the Mitchell and Vince Williams combination.
Yeah, definitely the first one between the two.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, SMP saying, oh, he might hate him now. I got you. All right, so he was just laughing about it in general, saying like he got him hired. Yeah, I mean, Ja Morant has made numerous terrible decisions and has not made the best decisions to have himself painted well in a public light with all of the different issues that he's been involved in over the last couple of years. So
weird because T. Morant seems so chill. Like it's so weird because his dad's such a relaxed individual.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, but I brought this up before on shows. We never actually had the discussion, but I think one of the most interesting debates to have is a redraft of who should go number one, Ja Morant or Zion, if you do that draft in hindsight. But anyway, only about a minute left to go until lock. If you guys are not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to check out any of the stochastic packages, get access to our Discord channel, our sims, our projections, and all that. Link to sign up is down below in the YouTube description box. Eric, any final thoughts on the slate? Anything that we have not hit on over the course of the show you want to make sure to leave to the audience before we sign off?
Dude, that draft was absurd. I'm looking at it now. Zion, Ja, RJ Barrett, Darius Garland, DeAndre Hunter, RJ Barrett, Kobe White, Rui Hachimura,
twice.
Cameron Johnson, PJ Washington, Tyler Hero, Nikhil Alexander-Walker went 17. Matisse Thybulle, Brandon Clark, 21. Darius Baisley, I miss him. I love him. Ty Jerome, 24th. He'll come back to us someday. Jordan Poole at 28. Kevin Porter Jr. at 30. Nick Claxton at 31. Holy shit, what a draft. Daniel Gafford, 38? What are we doing here?
That was one of the drafts in NBA history. That is true. That is a draft that happened. Final question I have for you, though, related to the DFS slate before we hit the close button. Who are you most nervous about ruining the slate for you, either because you don't have enough of them or you have too much of them?
I have too much Vince Williams Jr. I'm very, 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 very worried about what his minutes could be. I have a ton of him, no matter what. I know he's got negative leverage now. His ownership's probably going to come down, I hope, a little bit. But Vince Williams Jr., most nervous about. How about you?
Brandon Clark, because I really like him as a value option. This is his first game of the season. There's a scenario where he gets like a fake start and plays like
12 minutes.
It plays like 4 3-minute rotations or something like that, like one in each quarter. So I think he's the best overall value option on the slate. I think he's going to be under owned, but there is a wide range of outcomes there. So guys, that is going to do it for us today. And good news, the NBA Cup is behind us. We had the 2-game slate today, and then it is normal slates tomorrow and going forward. Hallelujah. Guys, thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a good night.